Hi, I'm Valentina.
Hi, I'm Tara, and the title of our experiment is To Chew or Not to Chew. Memory. The main question we try to answer during this experiment is, does chewing gum affect your short-term memory?
Over the last decade, there's been a lot of research on whether there is a link between chewing gum and a higher cognitive function. Several different researchers have shown that a significant effect exists, whereas others have shown no such results. The purpose of this research is to get further results on the subject by asking another teacher to give half the class gum, the experimental group, while a lesson is taught, and none to the other half, our control group. The same day, the teacher gave a formative quiz on the lesson and a piece of gum to the same half of the students. Once we calculated the results, we were able to see if gum affected their memory.
So first I'm going to give you some background information on what the difference between sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory is. Short-term memory is memory that holds a few items briefly before the information is stored or forgotten. Long-term memory is relatively permanent and limitless storehouse of the memory system. And sensory memory is the immediate, very brief recording of sensory information in the memory system. Our hypothesis for this experiment was that we believe there is not a significant effect between chewing gum and short-term memory, because we believe that actively doing a task, chewing gum, will distract someone from being able to learn a topic.
What made us come up with this experiment? We had both seen this kind of experiment done and had seen results where gum would actually help memory, and some where there was no relationship between the two. Due to this, we wanted to test it for ourselves and see what we could gather.
Our participants for this experiment were a class of students, approximately 21. This experiment was done on the teacher Ms. Bias's students in period 7. This photo demonstrates that the chewers were Cam, Ethan, Taylor, and Fabian. The materials we used for this experiment included Mentos Fresh Mint sugar-free gum, the participants, the quiz we used to give the participants, and a camera for recording.
Our procedure was to first gather all the materials. Next, we gathered participants and split them up into two groups. Group 1 was our experimental group, which was given gum, and Group 2 was our control group, who was not given gum. Then we gave each group the same information to remember. In our case, it was a lesson conducted by a teacher who was Miss Baez. One group was given a piece of gum for each person, and the other group was not given anything. Next, we waited about 30 minutes after the lesson was taught to give them a quiz on what they had learned. Before testing them, we gave our experimental group another piece of gum. Then, we verbally quizzed a few of the participants from each group and recorded it while the rest of the class took the electronic test. Finally, after the participants had finished, we calculated their results.
The independent variable in this experiment was the distribution of gum to either the chewers or the non-chewers, and the dependent variable in this experiment was the effects of the gum on short-term memory.
Por ejemplo, él dice 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000.
Okay. How do you say 766 in Spanish?
676, you said? 76.
766.
Oh, 766.
Okay.
6.
How do you say 185 in Spanish?
185.
Okay. How do you say 14,800 in Spanish?
Crap. Oh, sorry.
Spanish?
40,000. What were the other numbers? 14,000.
It's 14,800.
And 80.
Okay. Okay. How do you say 766 in Spanish?
60, no, right?
I can't tell you.
I'm not, 60,
Just say something.
okay.
What do you think it is?
48.
Okay.
I'm having a mind blank. I don't know,
How do you say 14,800 in Spanish?
I have no idea. I just have no idea.
Okay.
Why do I not remember this? I don't know any of this.
How do you say 766 in Spanish?
700,
66.
Okay. And how do you say 185 in Spanish?
185. Ciento. 185.
Okay. How do you say 14,800 in Spanish? 14,800.
800.
Number 4.
Okay. How do you say 766 in Spanish?
766.
Okay. How do you say 185 in Spanish?
185.
Okay. How do you say 14,800 in Spanish?
14,800.
Okay. And then how do you say 781 in Spanish?
781.
Okay, we're done. Okay. How do you say 766 in Spanish?
Wait, do I spell my guy first?
No, you're
No,
fine.
you're fine.
What was that number again?
766.
766.
Okay. How do you say 185 in Spanish?
185.
Okay. How do you say 14,800 in Spanish?
14,800.
Mm-hmm.
14,800.
Okay. And then how do you say 781 in Spanish?
781.
Okay.
Our hypothesis was rejected because there was a significant effect between chewing gum and short-term memory. This conclusion is supported by our graph, which shows that the participants who had gum had significantly better test scores than the participants who were not given anything. In our videos, you can see people who had gum get more questions correct and have less trouble remembering the information as opposed to the participants who were not given anything. The participants without gum may have gotten some of the questions correct, however, struggled in remembering the information more than the subjects with gum, which supports our conclusion that there is a relationship between chewing gum and short-term memory. An error we came across is that on one of the videos we gave the participant a slightly different number than we gave everyone else, which could have impacted our results to a small degree. Due to the testing effect, which is the finding that consciously retrieving rather than simply rereading information enhances memory, the students may now be able to better recall the information and do better on the real test. This is because testing does more than assess learning and memory. It improves them. If we were to replicate this experiment, what would we do differently? And the answer to that is that if we were to replicate this experiment next time, we would make sure all the participants get the same exact numbers to avoid any possible errors in our results.
A final question we were left with was, why were the participants not able to recall the information right after they learned it? From our research, we concluded that according to Herman Ebbinghaus, those who learn quickly also forget quickly. What does this mean? When Herman Ebbinghaus said, those who learn quickly also forget quickly, it relates to the fact that distributing learning and studying time helps you retain information for longer.